Chapter 9.1 Moringa Greenhouse Design. In the world of moringa cultivation, greenhouse design plays a crucial role in providing an optimal environment for growing healthy and robust moringa seedlings. This section will explore various aspects of greenhouse construction, design, and materials, with a focus on repurposed materials for cost effectiveness and sustainability. It will also highlight the importance of airflow and the utilization of fans for proper ventilation. Additionally, the greenhouse design will be tailored to meet the specific requirements of growing moringa seedlings in a warm, semi-tropical climate. The greenhouse allows you to control the environment and grow moringa outside of the recommended seasons and zones. Grow moringa all year in northern climates with a greenhouse. At first, I failed many times at growing moringa and sprouting moringa seeds. I could not get them to sprout and couldn't keep the trees alive long enough for them to form bark. Even still, many years into my moringa journey, I am constantly learning more tricks to grow them even more efficiently and safely. Thankfully, I can share some of the tips, tricks, techniques, challenges, and successes I've experienced throughout the years of growing moringa with the help of a greenhouse. While attending USF for architecture, I wanted to learn more about growing plants and start a plant nursery after college. Even though I wanted to be a practicing architect, my post-curricular goal was to learn more about nature and to become a farmer. Then, after a few years, I could combine the two professions and open an architecture firm that designs and builds turnkey farms. Shadecloth style. During my quest to learn more about plants, I was able to pick up an internship at a local plant nursery. They gave me 80 moringa trees in pots and a space in the back of their nursery to practice and grow some of my own plants. They gave me some extra materials, tables, shade cloth, and poles. They taught me if I wanted to be a successful grower, the first thing to set up is a greenhouse. So I put this space together, pictured below, and began learning how to take care of plants here, constructed from donated extra materials. For study, I had to incorporate the tectonic features of Mies van der Rohe and a rooftop likeness to Daniel Libeskind, two of my favorite architects. Figure 9.1, Moringa Shade House Design. This greenhouse was still too open to the elements, and I suffered several moringa tree losses the first year. This location was in too much shade in the back of the nursery. The summer rains were too heavy on the little trees, and the cold completely wiped them out. I had to start over in a much smaller space to get a better feel for the trees and what they needed to last through the year. Either way, I was not about to give up. When constructing a greenhouse for growing moringa seedlings, there are several key considerations. The structure should be sturdy, durable, and capable of withstanding environmental factors such as wind, rain, and potential pests. Assorted designs, including hoop houses, huts, or custom-built structures like the one pictured above, can be used based on available space and budget. Add upon this design to make it better. In terms of materials, repurposed or reused options can be utilized to minimize costs and reduce environmental impact. For example, salvaged PVC pipes, aluminum poles, wood, cattle fencing, chicken wire, ground cover, shade cloth, plastic covering, windows, glass panels, or fans. All of these materials can be repurposed for the greenhouse construction, allowing ample sunlight penetration and aeration. Recycled PVC pipes or reclaimed lumber can be used for framing, ensuring structural integrity. By employing creative and sustainable materials, you can reduce both financial and ecological burdens. Tiny space. After my first initial nursery greenhouse space failed, I downsized to a small townhouse backyard. This is where I was able to hone the feel for temperatures and control the environment a little more. This is where I began to understand what caused the leaves to turn yellow and what made them stretch tall and lose their leaves. The raised beds and herb wall was made from pallets, and the moringa really loved being around other plants. This space allowed me to prepare for attending the farmer's market selling moringa trees in pots. Building soil and creating an ideal environment for moringa, protected from the elements, allowed me to create a revenue stream from moringa and other plants as well. It worked well for 2 years at this location, then I found more space. Along the house, I moved into a single-family house in Tampa Heights and began managing and hosting an Airbnb operation. The position called for a live-in-garden farmer to steward the property and host a retreat-style Airbnb. The position allowed me to start from nothing in a typical suburban backyard with no infrastructure. It was patchy grass and sand. The first action item was to construct a small greenhouse. I decided to utilize the side of the house as a support structure and heat protector. Using PVC pipes, fans, plastic, tables, and cinder blocks, I was able to construct a cheap and easy greenhouse to protect the baby moringa trees from the cold. The sides rolled down on really cold nights. The greenhouse along the house was a test of airflow and temperature control. 2. Importance of airflow and ventilation. Proper airflow and ventilation are critical in maintaining a healthy greenhouse environment. Adequate ventilation prevents excessive heat, humidity, and disease buildup. Installing fans strategically throughout the greenhouse helps promote air circulation, preventing stagnant air and reducing the risk of fungal diseases. Ventilation can be achieved through vents, louvers, or roll-up sidewalls, allowing control over temperature and humidity levels. 3. House temperature regulation. To ensure consistent temperature regulation, incorporating a greenhouse near the house will function as a heat sink, especially in a temperate or semi-tropical climate. In larger greenhouses, utilizing an old jacuzzi or large tub filled with water acts as a heat sink and helps to absorb excess heat during summer and releases it gradually during colder months. These natural temperature regulation tips help maintain an optimal growing environment for moringa seedlings throughout the year. 4. Greenhouse sizes and design systems. Greenhouse design can vary in size and complexity depending on the scale of operations. Here are a few examples. Small hobby greenhouse. Ideal for home gardeners or small-scale operations. It can range from 8x10 to 12x16. It provides a controlled environment for starting moringa seedlings. Medium-sized greenhouse. Suited for small to medium commercial growers, it can range from 20x30 to 30x60s. This size accommodates more seedlings and allows for expanded production capacity. Large commercial greenhouse. Designed for extensive moringa production, it can span up to $100 or more. This size provides ample space for seedling production and cultivation of larger moringa trees. Along the fence, I added some 4x4 posts along the inside of the fence to use as support for this fence greenhouse. I was able to sell a lot of moringa trees at the farmer's market this way. The plastic rolled over the sides to protect them during extreme cold and rainy conditions. The nursery tables were elevated by 2 vertical cinder blocks. This fence greenhouse had overheat spray nozzles. They were still making the moringa leaves yellow. In the next iteration of greenhouse design, I perfected the moringa greenhouse method of growing. With the help of biostimulant fans and the wicking method, the moringa trees now have green leaves and lifelong to plant in the ground or ship in pots across the country. The PVC greenhouse has stood the test of time. It has been through 3 tropical storms. The yellowing on the plastic is from the well water. It has iron, but it does not hurt the plants. This location and scale greenhouse needed to have power for large fans. Further items to consider when designing your greenhouse. 5. Power source and energy options. The greenhouse design must consider a reliable power source for various systems, including ventilation, heating, and lighting. Assessing the availability of electricity, it is crucial to explore alternative energy options such as solar, wind, hydro, or gas to minimize reliance on the grid and reduce operating costs. Incorporating renewable energy sources aligns with sustainable practices and can enhance the long-term viability of the greenhouse. 6. Greenhouse systems. Greenhouse design involves several systems working together to create an optimal environment for moringa seedling growth. These systems may include Wicking irrigation system, providing controlled watering through drip irrigation or misting systems. When growing moringa in a greenhouse, utilize the wicking method and water from below. Do not water moringa trees in the greenhouse from above. It will promote fungus and mold, and the leaves will yellow fast. Instead, get a tub and fill it with water and a few ounces of biostimulant. Soak the biodegradable pellet pots and plant the moringa seeds in the hydrated and nutrified pots. Each time you water the seedlings, dunk them in the tub with the solution. Water as needed, do not let them dry out too much. Heating system. Utilizing heating elements or radiant heat to maintain warm temperatures in colder months. Position the greenhouse in full sun in the low winter sun. Lighting system. Supplementing natural with the plastic. Add shade cloth to help keep cool in the summer. Ventilation. The walls are raised and the doors are large. The interior framing allows for the plastic to be rolled up and the tables are raised to allow cross ventilation. The doors are kept open for breezeway. The PVC greenhouse is a cheap and easy greenhouse that can be constructed in a day. Here is a perspective drawing of the greenhouse. It is constructed from simple materials that you can purchase at any hardware store. Included below are further drawings on the plan and section of the PVC greenhouse. The materials are listed for a 60E long greenhouse, so adapt the material list for your size. Enjoy. Chapter 9.2 Moringa Residential Design. Moringa can be grown in a pot on a balcony for personal use, and it can also be grown outdoors in someone's residential backyard or even commercially at a farm as a business for profit. It is an ancient superfood with several medicinal and industrial properties and uses. No part of the moringa tree is wasted. Every part is valuable. Let us learn how to design your moringa tree space. In the following section, we will explore both general design strategies for residential and commercial spaces to help jumpstart your moringa operation. Your newfound interest of the moringa tree has turned into an obsession with all plants, nature, and the systems around us that makes life so beautiful. Residential design. I had the pleasure of becoming PDC certified for attending a 75-hour permaculture design course with Corinne Brennan from Grow Permaculture. After visiting her property, I was inspired to illustrate the beautiful showcase of plants and permaculture practices. There were several moringa trees and hundreds of plants that had been established for only 3 years before my arrival to the property. The drawing below shows the intricate design and plan Corinne put into place on this residential property in Clearwater, Falls. She named it the Hibiscus House. Site analysis. Begin with a brief general description of the site and its placement in the region. This includes a very brief description of orientation of site. Is the property north, south, east, or west facing? Where is the sunrise and sunset? Where is the southern sky? These are particularly important orientation techniques when first assessing a property. Then, take a note of the existing vegetation. Do you see any signs of existing water or standing water when it rains? Or do you notice if there is flooding? Or do you see high standing water signs on fencing and the exterior of the house? What is the composition of the soil? Grab a handful and play with the soil in your hands to get a better feel of the earth and your surroundings. Acquire the professional drawings of your property from the city or county, or generate a sketch of the location using Google Maps. Then, once you have something physical you can print out, place a piece of trace paper over top of your site plan. Then, draw a diagram of the site and how the main spatial features start to come together. Mark identifiable areas to be treated in detail later. Once you've sketched a diagram of your property, similar to the one above, take another piece of trace paper and start another sketch over top your blank site plan. With your newfound understanding of where general locations should be, let's begin to fill in even more details. Going through these motions will help you piece together the next level of understanding for the space. Next, you'll begin with making a vectors map. Remarkably similar to how Corinne decided how to design this property. Vectors. Once she walked the property and spent time determining the diagram, it's time to create a series of drawings that will define the vectors of the site. Vectors are the speed, volume, amplitude, and direction of a particular energy. For instance, properties are windier near the ocean. If your site is exposed to high winds, they can create havoc with greenhouses, roofing, and young trees. If you're near the water and the wind is coming mostly from an extremely specific location, that is a vector of speed with pinpointed volume and direction, which gives us predictions as designers. These winds can decimate plants if they are not protected or watered sufficiently. So, it's important to know these seasonal patterns. Wildlife. Documenting where the wildlife is coming from can assist you to create barriers if they harm your crops, or enticements if they are a help. Experience. Name out as many vectors as you can think of that could influence your property or another property with which you are familiar. Elevation. Flag the highest parts of the property and designate the low-lying areas of the property where water flow and flooding may occur. Sectors. On any new project, you'll need to walk the property and get an even better feel for the external energies coming onto the site. A sector map shows these locations on the site where external energies influence the site and where you would place elements based on the information you find from walking the property. For instance, see where the sun hits the yard, which would be the sun sector. You will also have a shade sector and partial shade sector. These sectors will change throughout the year as the seasons change, and it's important to know where the sun hits in winter in equinox, and in summer if you are in a climate zone where you can grow plants all or most of the year. Use sectors to place design components to manage incoming energy. Sectors are determined during this site assessment. The more thoroughly you document sectors, the more efficient your design will be, and the more energy you will be able to capture from your design. Sunlight. Determine where the shade will fall in the yard during winter solstice. Examples of sector influences include seasonal sun angles, shade, wind, hot, drying, salty, cold, dusty, rainfall, noise, such as a nearby freeway, air or water pollution or other toxicity coming onto the site, running water, swamp, or flooding, fire, views, utilities, sewer, neighbors, wildlife, corridors, access, traffic, pollen, and reflection from ponds. Wind. Wind often comes from different directions in different seasons. Know the patterns. Because of the lay of the land or buildings, you may have wind tunnels or open fields, and you will need to design windbreaks to protect the site. Rain can cause flooding, erosion, or other changes that will become a factor. Driveways and roads can be considered sectors, as these carry energy into and out of the system. Anything that might influence the design that is an external energy can be included. Rain. Know when it's dry and when or if it floods to plan for irrigation accordingly. When it rains is just as important as how much it rains. Some areas may have a high annual rainfall, but will have several weeks to months of little to no rainfall. You may need to store water, collect water from the roof, build a pond to store water and soak it into the local area slowly. Find out the direction of the water when it rains and where are the high and low spots of the property. Work towards capturing the external energies. What do you do with sectors once you have them documented? Through the placement of elements, such as trees or earthworks, we can block unwanted incoming energy, channel the incoming energy for our intended use, and open the area to allow the incoming energy in. It is impossible to provide a sequence that will always be right and can be followed for each location, but we can nonetheless give you guidance on how to start and be efficient and effective in the time you spend. A superior design will use all of these tools. Design sequence. 1. Collect all data. What are your requirements for the project? Are there any existing maps from previous owner or the city, county, state? What are some local regulations you might need to know before walking the property? 2. Recognize. Use permaculture principles that fit specifically for that particular situation and can be applied to the problems. 3. Analyze. What are your problems with the property? What are the vectors? What are the sectors? 4. Design. Put the ideas down on paper and finalize the solutions in the form of drawings. Incorporate edges, patterning, increased functional relationships, and wrap it all together. 5. Check. Pinpoint all the details and look everything over to make sure this solution adequately meets your needs, takes care of all problems. Once you have covered everything, you can draft the report. 7. Apply. Implement your design and put your ideas in motion. Grab a shovel and begin making soil. Plant trees, dig swales, and not to mention watch, observe, and adjust. Of all the states, Florida has the highest annual temperature and can grow moringa with less inputs all year for maximum production. Florida is home to a wealth of native plants for the use in an average rural or urban home landscape. Native plants desirable for home use range from the spectacular southern magnolia to the miniature creeping vine of the partridge berry. The state has half of all the species of trees available in North America north of Mexico. So many of Florida's native plants are useful that the plant list included below is only a small fraction of plants that you can grow in companion with moringa trees. Included here is the list of only those with the greatest potential to use in your landscape in conjunction with moringa trees. Native plants are equally practical and attractive on rural and urban home grounds. You may already know and appreciate some native plants, but be unfamiliar with many others that could be used freely. Native plants are adapted to the climate and soil conditions of a given area and usually have fewer pest problems. Therefore, their use in landscaping can decrease maintenance. Some plants have specific growth requirements. Others thrive under a variety of climatic and soil conditions. You need to consider the native habitat of a plant and plan its use in a similar environment. Remember that Florida's native wild plants are protected under the Plant Protection Law. Under this law, both preservation and propagation are encouraged. It is against the law in Florida to destroy, injure, harvest, collect, pick, or remove any plants covered by the Plant Protection Law without prior written permission from the landowner or legal occupant of the land. Another Florida law specifically protects sea oats and sea grapes. It is against the law to dig up or remove these plants, whose growth helps prevent beach erosion. Some nurseries stock native plants. In the tables of native Florida plants included in the advanced certifications, plants are first grouped by type: ground covers, vines, shrubs, small trees, large trees, and palms. One common question is, how many moringa trees can I grow on 1 acre? If you've never grown moringa before, start small. Climate plays a key factor in your growing methods and the success of your operation. If you are new to a region or property, before planting anything, utilize the first rule of permaculture: observation. Then, once you've spent some time on the property learning the weather patterns, temperatures, and rainfall, determine where you can plant a small plot of moringa in full sun all year. Document your findings and record the significant dates and times major shifts in weather patterns once you know more about the site. Labor is the largest expense in a moringa farm operation and a crucial factor to keep in mind when starting a large operation. Scale based on skill and time. Determine how much time and labor it took to grow, harvest, and process a smaller plot of moringa trees so that you can be a more profitable commercial grower. Take good notes of important achievements, planting, sprouting, harvesting, temperature, and rainfall so that you can analyze your results the following year. Once you get more experienced growing moringa at a small scale, then take more of a commercial approach. Depending on your region, there are several different methods and styles to choose from. Most of the time, in warmer regions, growers can incorporate all 3 moringa growing methods in one system. The intensive, fedge, and orchard methods are used to describe the distance of each tree in relation to each other, as discussed further in this chapter. Incorporating all three styles into your system, especially in warmer climates, will allow growers to harvest fresh greens in the first 1 to 3 years for dried leaf and powder income, then phase into drumstick and seed production by year 3. This diagram shown in figure 8 to 7 is not a literal depiction of a farm operation or intercropping method. Instead, it is a graphical representation of the area a farmer can plant moringa. It might be more incorporated into the rows. This diagram is used to show comparison to other crops. A plot of moringa can also be introduced into your system. Each square represents 1 acre of land. In commercial settings, typically a farmer will have many acres of one crop, usually in rows. When one plant is grown continuously in one place, it pulls the same profile of nutrients out of the soil as well, further depleting and straining the land. If it is continued to be farmed in that way, season after season, the crops will diminish and reduce the yields. That's why there is something called crop rotation, leaving the land empty, dusty, and move on approach. To help replenish soils, some farmers utilize the practice of seasonal planting, and in the off-season, plant nitrogen fixers. These off-season crops help replenish the soil. Then at the end of the off-season, that nitrogen fixer is completely tilled back into the ground prior to replanting the next cash crop, acting like an organic compost additive. Some farmers will rotate crops and seasonal cropping, where after the season they'll harvest and sow sun hemp or beans to help replenish the soil using ground covers and nitrogen fixers. If a farmer were to grow moringa alongside their cash crops, either in another plot entirely or intercropped among the cash crops, whether every few rows or so, then the moringa can serve as a natural soil amendment using the chop and drop method, or even harvesting the leaves to make a biostimulant that can be sprayed on the cash crops and the soil for added nutrients and to replenish the soil with microorganisms. I would highly recommend any farm to do this. Grow a plot of moringa trees and make a fermented plant juice out of the leaves, a foliar spray, and a soil amendment, and spray that on the cash crops. It can help increase yields of the other crops up to 40% more and replenish the soil at the same time. Grow moringa as a biostimulant that can be sprayed as a liquid or chopped and dropped on the soil as a powder. Moringa has the ability to restore depleted soils and help to increase the biology of your soil so that you can have higher yields on other crops. Growing moringa for biostimulant can be the soil amendment and nutrients needed to help make that 1 acre of tomatoes produce up to 40% more yields. Moringa row cropping. A row crop is a crop that can be planted in rows wide enough to allow it to be tilled or otherwise cultivated by agricultural machinery tailored for the seasonal activities of row crops. Such crops are sown by a tractor drilling or transplanting with a semi-automatic pulling mechanism rather than broadcasting or spreading. They are often grown close together in long rows, several trees wide. The distinction is significant in crop rotation strategies, where land is planted with row crops, commodity food grains, and sod-forming crops in a sequence meant to protect the quality of the soil while maximizing the soil's annual productivity. In Plant City, FL, the most popular row crop to grow is strawberries. In this farm pictured above in figure 8-8, Barry Murphy from Moringa Products USA was given permission by a strawberry farmer to plant moringa seeds in several unused rows next to his strawberries. The result is now a successful moringa cropping operation set to expand to 10,000 moringa trees on 1 acre. They plan to grow 5 acres of moringa this coming 2023 summer season, the time when strawberries are usually done for the season. This could be a way for farmers in Plant City and in several zones throughout the USA that can utilize their fields in the summer between crop seasons to plant moringa. During the growing season, the interrow spaces are hoed 2 to 4 times, and the rows are weeded to conserve moisture and improve aeration. As a result, the soil's microbiological activity increases and mobilization of nutrients is intensified. Row crops are valuable precursors of spring grain crops, flax, and hemp. The beneficial effect of row crops extends to the second crop that can be planted in the same spots as the previous crop. Typically, the rows are completely tilled and flattened every year or every other year. Other examples of row crops include sunflower, potato, canola, dry bean, field pea, flax, safflower, buckwheat, cotton, maize, soybeans, and sugar beets. Moringa alley cropping. Moringa alley cropping is combining intercropping method and the forest enterprise method. The goal of the system is to be even more productive, with more of a variety of material being produced by the moringa trees. There are rows of moringa trees for drumstick production in more of an orchard-style method, and in between the larger drumstick trees, create alleys within those spaces to plant smaller moringa trees can be grown as intensive method to produce greens within the first 45 days. The smaller moringa trees used in alley cropping usually are sown directly from seed into the field, while the larger trees are transplanted from pots, then planted into place. Moringa alley cropping can be utilized by farmers who are transitioning from growing another crop to growing moringa. It is the intermediary design before reaching the most desirable method for growing moringa, agroforestry system, discussed further in this section. Moringa alley cropping is an agricultural practice that places trees within commercial cropland systems. This system is sometimes called intercropping, especially in tropical areas. It is especially attractive to moringa growers because it produces more moringa material on the same acreage to improve whole farm yield. Growing a large amount of moringa in close proximity to each other can create significant benefits to producers and help them manage risk, but there are still some downfalls and limitations to only growing one crop, moringa, in the system. Alley cropping systems should be temporary and change over time. As moringa trees grow, they should be harvested and even removed to make room for larger moringa trees beginning to form, and also other crops and plants should be introduced over time to create a more resilient, biodiverse agroforestry system. Moringa alley cropping is still considered monocropping, which has serious downfalls over extended periods of time, depleting the soil, for example. Some farmers plan moringa alley cropping systems to provide additional functions that support and enhance other aspects of their operation. For example, a livestock producer might grow moringa in an alley cropping operation to supply their fodder with fresh moringa greens, use as bedding for chickens and ducks, or serve other needs for their livestock. Other types of farmers may want to produce moringa biomass for on-farm use as a biostimulant, as mentioned in Figure 8.7. Organic producers may choose moringa trees to replenish depleted soil conditions as a fermented plant juice and spray moringa leaves on their other crops. Like all systems, alley cropping systems should be considered as part of the whole farm operation. Moringa alley cropping design considerations. The location should be conducive to growing moringa trees, and other crops should be suited to the local soils, climate, and the site. The most important aspect of your operation is proper spacing for your purpose. Spacing should ensure accessibility for timely management activities, such as spraying, pruning, or harvesting. The size of available equipment used for the alley cropping will in part dictate the width of the alleys. You'll be operating something smaller, like a golf cart-sized vehicle, and can make the rows a little closer. Your area doesn't have good wind or circulation, so it may be good to make the alleys and rows a little further apart to create wind tunnels. Study the direction of wind to help decide the direction of your rows. Optimal tree row orientation depends on the specific location and alley width. Tree rows planted on contours or aligned in a keyline system can help reduce soil erosion. Turn your existing system into a moringa alley cropping operation if your other crops are failing. Moringa alley cropping can reduce wind and water erosion while improving pollinator and wildlife habitat. Introducing moringa into any existing system has potential for reduced incidence of pests and disease, while offering increased air quality and soil moisture with increased carbon sequestration and reduced nutrient leaching to groundwater. Some moringa alley cropping limitations compared with monoculture cropping systems is that alley cropping systems involve more complex pesticide application. There is more competition between trees for water and pulling the same nutrient profile from the soil. There are more skills needed to grow moringa as an orchard tree and also as a young sprout or seedling. There are challenges for equipment use, not to mention changing over or reseeding the alley moringa trees each season, while also harvesting and pruning larger trees before seasons change. The capital investment for initially sprouting the moringa trees and the time it takes for establishment can also be more costly than intercropping. Moringa alley cropping is also not a long-term solution for the space. Some economic considerations moringa producers should consider are the value of each moringa tree and the products each tree can make, as well as their primary markets. Alley cropping takes advantage of the beneficial space between larger moringa trees and time it takes for them to produce drumsticks. The younger alley moringa trees can produce fresh greens within 45 days from sprouting. As a result, the yields from growing two-size moringa trees together can be greater than growing the same-sized moringa tree. There can be many variations to this system. A farmer could replace a single row of their normal crop with an alley of smaller young moringa trees. Or, if the farmer already is growing small crops in an alley style or intercropping method as a monocrop, moringa trees can be planned and phased into the system over time. They can grow into larger orchard-style trees. Phasing will be discussed later in this chapter. There are a number of factors to consider when selecting a location for your moringa alley crop operation, including light requirements throughout the year, nutrient needs of moringa, and the possibility of increasing undesirable wildlife populations. Alley cropping systems, such as these, can create more complexities when it comes to some management activities, which we will discuss in Chapter 8, Moringa Management. Moringa alley cropping can also be used to transition from other forms of perennial agriculture. Alley cropping provides producers with an exciting way to improve the whole farm yield on their farms. Moringa alley cropping is increasingly being adopted by farmers in temperate areas. When normally summer is too hot to grow many crops, moringa can be added to existing systems to increase profits. Moringa trees desire hot temperatures and full sun. If your location gets colder in the winter, your system may have severe production variations with seasonal planting and harvesting. The smaller alley moringa trees are considered annual cropping, replanting the moringa seeds each year in the alleys, while the rows of larger moringa trees may be able to withstand colder temperatures and grow back after each frost as a perennial crop with some annual maintenance, harvesting, and pruning. You may need to replace any larger moringa trees that did not survive the colder temperatures. Moringa trees can adapt within their lifespan to withstand colder temperatures, but the thin bark and minimal cadmium layers prevent moringa from ever being a colder climate tree. Moringa trees have a strong response to light and crowding. For example, moringa trees planted in single rows with wide row spacing tend to grow branches outward into the middle of the rows, while a much closer spacing, they will grow upward and stretch taller with less leaves in response to limited light. Consequently, there is a trade-off between production levels of larger moringa trees and the amount of large moringa trees you have on 1 acre. Widely spaced trees planted in single rows favor drumstick production, while closely spaced trees planted in multiple rows favor high-quality green production. That is why, in the moringa alley cropping method, larger trees in rows are for drumstick production, while the smaller alley, moringa trees, are for green and biomass production. Producers also need to understand growth characteristics of juvenile moringa trees. Growth rates of moringa trees when they are young may conflict the space you give them, especially when you are planting a row of trees for drumstick production. But you might be starting the row as an alley crop or intensive method. Over time, the alley can be thinned and planned for specific trees to remain and become the orchard trees. If your purpose is not clearly defined for each tree and the way it will be utilized, the rows can be quickly overrun with weeds and prevent your moringa trees from producing much at all in the first year. One or more of the moringa trees in the alley may get too large and may dominate the alley, which would have a negative effect on the biomass of your other, smaller moringa trees. That issue can easily be corrected if caught early with pruning or removal, but knowing what you want from each tree in its specific location reflects the productivity of your system. Moringa agroforestry. The combination of intercropping, alley cropping, and permaculture is known as moringa agroforestry, with the focus and aim of growing a highly productive moringa operation with the most natural methods, with the least amount of external inputs. Moringa agroforestry is highly profitable and a more natural system that encourages the use of trees, shrubs, herbs, ground covers, and grasses to flourish together. This method of commercial farming contributes to the highest level of carbon sequestration, or the removal of carbon dioxide, CO2, from the atmosphere, other than a natural forest. It is the exact opposite of industrial agriculture, which emits 25% of greenhouse gas emissions and encourages synthetic fertilizers, chemical herbicides, and petroleum-based pesticides. The benefits of moringa agroforestry is supported by many conservation programs and permaculturalists. Compared with other agriculture systems, moringa agroforestry can provide an increased economic diversity with higher amounts of moringa being produced, with a greater nutrient profile, along with the production of other crops. In the case of moringa agroforestry, larger moringa trees can produce drumsticks, seeds, cuttings, and younger, smaller moringa trees can produce greens and biomass at various times of the year, with a variety of moringa trees at different ages and sizes. There are many ways to begin incorporating moringa into existing operations. One of the best ways to introduce moringa into a functioning system is seeing how the local insects and animals interact from introducing it into the ecosystem. Consider growth in both height and width of trees and shrubs on either side of the moringas, as if they were already full grown. Think ahead. If you have the larger trees for drumsticks overshadowing the smaller moringa trees in the alleys, then they may get too much shade, wilt, and die. Managing the light for all the plants in your system is important. As the moringa trees grow larger, they will create more shade on the companion crops. To address this change, trees can be thinned, or crops can be planted that are more shade tolerant or have a complementary growing season with the trees. Some plants are contradictive to the prosperity and growth of your moringa trees, and they may not be a companion plant. Most notably, pine trees, palm trees, black walnut trees, pecan and eucalyptus trees, some types of grasses, and several other crops produce chemicals that inhibit the growth of moringa trees. Find out which plants are most susceptible to any allelopathic species under consideration and do not plant them near moringa. There can be a competition for space, water, and nutrients in the soil if you do not design your system properly. Try to choose plants that have root structures that are less likely to compete for valuable resources. Understand your goals for the system. Most producers have other goals beyond optimizing or maximizing income. Wildlife, ecosystem, and water quality are also common interests of producers. Moringa agroforestry is a way to diversify crop production and increase economic and environmental resilience. This approach to agriculture takes advantage of the interactions between moringa, trees, supplemental crops, shrubs. In between the diverse rows of moringa trees and other crops, young moringa trees can still be grown in the alleys, or even grow another crop entirely in the alleys. Chapter 9.4 Moringa Intensive Design. The intensive grow method is a highly efficient approach to moringa farming that aims to achieve maximum production and yield, particularly in the first year of cultivation. By implementing techniques such as creating raised rows of soil and planting a considerable number of moringa seeds per acre, this method maximizes biomass production in a brief period of time. This method involves creating raised rows of soil and planting a substantial number of moringa seeds, typically exceeding 100,000 seeds per acre. The following is a detailed description of the process. 4. Biostimulant. Once the rows of sticks, branches, and yard waste are covered and the composted soil is laid over top, add biostimulant powder, then spray the extract. The mounded rows are now ready to plant the moringa seeds. The rows are built up high and dry to ensure good drainage and prevent waterlogging. This elevation also helps create favorable root conditions for the moringa plants, allowing them to establish strong and healthy root systems. 7. Watering and irrigation. After planting the seeds, provide adequate water to facilitate germination and establishment. Proper irrigation is crucial for the successful establishment of the moringa seeds. Consistent moisture levels should be maintained to support germination and early growth. Depending on the climate and soil conditions, a drip irrigation system or regular self-watering practices may be employed to ensure sufficient hydration throughout the growing period. 9. Biomass production. The intensive method aims to achieve maximum biomass production in a brief period. As the moringa trees grow, they should be pruned regularly to encourage branching and increase overall biomass. This can be done by removing the growing tip or cutting back specific branches, promoting vigorous growth and abundant leaf production. Harvest fresh leaves within the first 30 days. It is worth noting that while the intensive grow method focuses on maximizing biomass production, it is important to strike a balance between productivity and sustainable farming practices. Care should be taken to ensure that soil health is maintained through regenerative practices, such as organic fertilization, cover cropping, and crop rotation, to support long-term productivity and environmental stewardship. In the wintertime, grow kale and lettuce on the same raised beds. Moringa is a great summer green to grow and expand your product line. In conclusion, the intensive grow method of moringa farming provides a systematic approach to achieving maximum production and yield in the first year. By creating raised rows, planting a substantial number of seeds per acre, and implementing proper irrigation and maintenance practices, moringa farmers can optimize biomass production and lay the foundation for a successful and productive moringa farm. Chapter 9.5 Moringa Fedge Design. A unique and practical way to utilize moringa trees is by planting them close together to form a living fence, also known as a moringa fedge. This approach combines the functionality of a fence with the added benefits of growing an edible and productive hedge. Moringa fedges can be established in rows or around the border of a property, offering numerous advantages such as wind protection, animal control, and abundant biomass production. The added density to your site will provide more income in a shorter amount of time. 2. Planting and design options. When establishing a moringa fedge, there are various planting and design options to consider. Rows of moringa trees can be planted close together, allowing for easy maintenance and harvesting. Alternatively, the fedge can be formed around the border of a property, acting as a natural and functional barrier. In an orchard design, creating paddocks of areas like this ensures fertility sequestration, windbreak, and an abundant amount of added biomass. An acre of 400 moringa trees could have an added 1,000 trees along the border to create a fedge. The greens are still edible, and the trees can be used for various purposes throughout the year. Wind barriers. The dense foliage of the moringa fedge acts as a natural windbreak, helping to reduce the impact of intense winds on surrounding areas. This can be particularly advantageous in windy regions or in locations where wind-sensitive crops or structures are present. Animal control. Moringa fedges can serve as effective deterrents for animals, providing a barrier between desired areas and potential intruders. The height and density of the fedge can help protect crops, gardens, or valuable plantings from browsing animals. Biomass production. The dense planting of moringa trees in a fedge provides an abundant source of biomass. Regular pruning of the fedge results in a continuous supply of moringa leaves, which can be harvested for culinary use, livestock feed, or nutrient-rich compost material. 5. Harvesting and utilization. Harvesting from a moringa fedge can be done on an ongoing basis. As the moringa trees grow, their leaves can be selectively harvested for culinary purposes, such as salads, smoothies, or as a nutrient-rich addition to various dishes. Additionally, the harvested leaves can be dried and ground into moringa powder or used as livestock feed. Chapter 9.6 Orchard Design. The goal of farming should be to get as close to nature as possible while maintaining production and increasing profits in a commercial system, while also achieving a level of respect for nature, being honest to your customers, and maintaining a level of integrity for yourself and your neighbors as a responsible commercial grower. 1. Orchard layout and row. Preparation. To start, plan the layout of your moringa orchard. Spacing the trees 10 to 15 feet apart in a grid pattern allows for optimal sunlight exposure and efficient orchard management. Prior to planting, prepare the rows by tilling the soil and removing any weeds or debris. Ensure the soil is well drained and rich in organic matter to support healthy tree growth. Raise the level of your soil and put oak mulch down first. It can help to create more fertile soil. Add biostimulant powder and extract to increase microbial organisms. 4. Using all the material. Harvesting the leaves will produce several piles of branches and sticks. The moringa tree produces a lot of biomass. Using all the wasted material can help increase profits. For example, the wings from the seeds can be used to make paper. If it was sifted from the seeds, the operation has another form of income from the waste stream. 5. Labor costs and profit potential. Labor costs in a moringa orchard can vary depending on factors such as the size of the orchard, the number of trees, and the level of mechanization employed. Pruning, harvesting, and general maintenance tasks require a resolute workforce. Consider the costs associated with hiring skilled labor, equipment operation, and ongoing management practices. If you can plan to harvest the greens yourself, you'll be much more profitable. Profit potential. A 1-acre moringa orchard can be profitable, consisting of 300-400 mature trees. The profitability depends on several factors, including your market. What market do you want to be in? Human, plant, or animal? A little of all three? Knowing that you can market the same powder as human feed, animal feed, or plant feed is very advantageous to the industry. The market demand of your product will depend on your branding. Maintain a high price. Offer a premium product because it is local and handmade by you. Keep the production costs low with proper planning and design. The best way to profit is to build the soil first. Assess local market conditions. Developing a marketing strategy and establishing a reliable customer base are essential for maximizing profits. Additionally, incorporating value-added products such as wing paper, seed oil, capsules, and tea to your product line can further enhance the income potential. Walkable orchard. In a small space, 60x60e space, start getting a feel for the distancing that you'd like to create your orchard. The style below is best for the urban backyard. The pathways are small and the trees stay very bushy and tight together. This is a walkable orchard. The entire ground can be layered with composted soil and mulch. In a mechanized moringa orchard, wider rows are designed to allow for the efficient movement of vehicles and machinery. This layout facilitates various orchard management tasks, including cultivation, irrigation, fertilization, and harvesting. The wider rows provide ample space for equipment to maneuver, reducing the risk of damage to the trees and optimizing operational efficiency. When planning a mechanized orchard, it is important to consider the dimensions of the vehicles and machinery that will be used. The width of the rows should accommodate the size of the equipment, allowing for comfortable passage without causing damage to the trees or hindering their growth. Wider rows ranging from 15 to 20 feet or more are ideal for mechanized operations. In a mechanized orchard, the trees can be staggered or offset from each other, allowing the branches stretch even more across the aisles. During the harvesting process, mechanized operations can significantly improve efficiency. Harvesting machinery, such as tree shakers or mechanical pruners, can navigate the wider rows and access the moringa trees with ease. This streamlines the harvest and reduces labor requirements, enabling higher productivity and cost effectiveness. In a mechanized orchard, the wider rows not only enhance operational efficiency, but also contribute to the overall management of the orchard. They provide ample space for monitoring tree health, conducting pest and disease management activities, and implementing general maintenance practices. Additionally, the increased airflow and sunlight penetration resulting from wider rows can positively impact the health and productivity of the moringa trees. Chapter 9.7 Moringa Phase Design. Phase planting is a strategic approach to establishing a regenerative moringa farm that allows for efficient land utilization and maximizes the growth and productivity of the moringa trees over time. It involves starting with a high density of moringa trees and gradually phasing out some of them as they grow larger, creating space for the remaining trees to thrive and reach their full potential. This will also allow you to earn a living from growing moringa in the first 30 days from sprouting. The trees will sprout and be ready for harvest in 30 days. Then you can sell the fresh greens or dry them for loose leaf or powder. The trees that are removed can be potted up or sold as tubers or young trees. Phase 1. Start the operation in the intensive method. Place each seed in a specific location with a furrow or evenly broadcast seeds on mound so that there is a scattered layer of seeds, about 1,000 seeds for every 2-3 SQFT. If you furrow, you can simply rake over. If you broadcast, you'll need to add a layer of soil over top, about 1/2 thick. Top off the raised beds with a thin layer of oak mulch and feed the beds biostimulant powder and extract. The seeds should sprout in 6 to 10 days if planted in the spring. Phase 2. The trees that are removed can be sold or relocated to a new space, ensuring minimal wastage and potential for additional revenue streams. This phase-out process needs to be executed thoughtfully, considering the vigor, health, and growth potential of individual trees. It is advisable to remove trees that exhibit slower growth, deformities, or diseases, while retaining the healthiest and most robust specimens. Pot up the trees removed and sell them individually as retail, or sell them without soil in bulk to a commercial grower. They can be shipped. After 3 to 6 months, the trees can be thinned and removed even more to leave a single row of trees at about 2 to 3 acres apart. These practices contribute to the overall sustainability and health of the moringa farm, fostering long-term productivity, environmental stewardship, and community well-being. Apply the biostimulant powder and extract every 15 days for faster growth and up to 40% more yields. Phase 4. Within the first year, your space can phase from an intensive operation to an orchard with these methods. During the entire year, you've been able to harvest greens and offer fresh products to local customers. This is the best way to establish your moringa orchard in the shortest amount of time. Phase 5. Continue to develop your property to its maximum potential. If you only have moringa trees and only harvest moringa from the property, it will begin to lack a certain profile of nutrients. Agroforestry is the ultimate agriculture method of growing food in a commercial system. After 1-2 years of getting the plot established and making money from it the entire time with moringa, now you can bring in young fruit trees and herbs that will have the protection of the canopy above and the mycelial network fungus and microbes established below in the soil. Phase farming, alternating a series of crops with a few years of perennial species, is one of the most promising innovations for controlling recharge in cropping areas. The system exploits the storage capacity of the deep subsoil, allowing it to fill during the cropping years and emptying it under the perennial. Your moringa growing journey will go through many distinct phases. Your moringa trees will never look exactly the same every year. They will continually be trimmed, pruned, and manicured for commercial production. Phase planting is a progression of utilizing different growing distances and harvesting methods from the time your moringa trees are young sprouts, producing greens through them, developing more flowers, bark, and turning into mature trees, developing seeds. The fastest way to make a living is from commercial moringa. Farming is the intensive and fed-row methods discussed further detail in following sections. Methods. Then, as your moringa trees age and the space between each tree increases, phase into growing your moringa trees to the orchard method to produce drumsticks and seeds by the 3rd year of growing. Tree and shrub options. Producers should think about the following questions when selecting tree or shrub species. How quickly will the tree or shrub grow? How soon will it be harvestable? Will the trees alter the soil pH? Does the tree or shrub fix nitrogen? How will this interact with the crop? Does the tree or shrub produce wildlife benefits? Succession in forest. The first step of succession is called the pioneer stage, and plants that grow in degraded, tough environments are called pioneer plants. Here is the sequence. 1. Weeds and nitrogen fixers. Short-term plants, tough, drought-tolerant, don't need much nutrition. Pioneer species 2, larger weeds, small bushes, and brambles. 3, larger berry bushes, small trees, more diversity. These plants shade out weeds. Stage 3 and 4 are very dynamic, prolific stages that are useful to mimic small-scale food systems. 4, larger trees, shade-loving plants. 5, climax forest, mature trees, stable ecosystem. Chapter 9-8, Kendrick Henry Moringa Farm Design. Kendrick Henry Intensive Moringa Design. While utilizing the intensive grow method, I planted a single tree on the end cap of each raised bed. On the north side, I planted a moringa tree, and on the south side, I planted a fruit tree. Options for supplemental plants and trees are in the next section. With the specifications in the graphic below, I was able to plant about 3,000 to 5,000 seeds on each raised bed. Once they sprout, I begin to harvest the fresh greens within the first 30 days. I wash the greens, place them in containers, and take them to the farmer's market. Harvest every 30 to 60 days until wood forms on the trees. Then you can remove them, place them into pots, and sell them individually. You can also pull the young trees out at the end of the season and sell them as mature trees without soil. Place mature trees in a box and ship across the country. A. Raised beds. Prepare raised beds by loosening the soil and incorporating organic matter. This ensures good drainage and optimal root development. Build mounds to plant moringa seeds high and dry so they don't get flooded in summer rains. B. Broadcasting seeds. Plant moringa seeds using the broadcast method, scattering them evenly across the raised beds. For intensive cultivation, plant the seeds only 1 to 2 inches apart. This dense planting allows for close proximity, resulting in a carpet-like growth of microgreens. Sow the seeds after the last frost. Cover seeds lightly with 1 to 2 layer of composted soil and oak chips to avoid them from drying out. C. Watering and care. Ensure the raised beds are adequately watered to promote germination and growth. Maintain a consistent moisture level while avoiding waterlogging. Regularly monitor pests and diseases, implementing organic pest control methods when necessary. Keep seeds moist for 2 weeks until sprouting, then water as needed. Kendrick Henry Moringa Fedge Design. While utilizing the Fedge design, I planted moringa trees in an array pattern. I like to call it moringa rays of sunshine, radiating from a large oak tree on the property. The rows are about 3 to 4 wide. Take string and start from a spot on the oak tree and lay out the rays. Be creative and plant moringa trees about 1-2 apart in the moringa Fedge design, utilizing the staggered pattern. I planted a single moringa on the end caps to mature and grow into a seed and drumstick tree, while the Fedge trees for a living fence lead towards to oak tree. The Fedge trees can be started from seed or cuttings really easily. I raised the level of soil around the tree using oak mulch. The cuttings rooted easier that way. A. Plant spacing. Plant moringa trees a little further apart than the intensive method, 1 to 2 feet, to create a living fence. This spacing provides enough room for the trees to grow into a dense hedge while allowing adequate sunlight penetration. The rows are narrow and walkable without machinery or wheelbarrows. I stopped the rows as they got closer together and near the oak tree so that a push mower could fit through there. B. Soil preparation. Prepare the soil by raising it higher and incorporating organic matter, which will ensure proper drainage. Amend the soil with biostimulant, compost, or well-decomposed manure to provide the necessary nutrients for healthy tree growth. Then plant cuttings, seedlings, or transplants to start your Fedge. C. Pruning and maintenance. Regular pruning is essential to maintain the desired height and density of the moringa Fedge. Prune the trees to encourage branching and bushiness, ensuring they form a solid living fence. Remove any dead or damaged branches to maintain tree health. Kendrick Henry Moringa Orchard Design. This method of growing moringa is most well known around the world for commercial operations to produce greens, cuttings, seeds, and drumsticks. But my design is unique. It incorporates agroforestry systems' approach to diversity and succession planting with layers, canopy, ground covers, pollinators, herbs, and berry plants. The alleys and raised beds are 12 wide, easy for machines and wind to pass through. The raised beds are divided into 4 wide sections, with a moringa tree spaced 10 apart in line and 4 over. Another line of moringa trees are planted in a staggered position, creating 2 dense lines of moringa trees on a single row. In between each moringa tree, a fruit tree, berry bush, or herbal plant is located to increase the product and yields of other fruits and veggies. The end caps are filled with pineapples, chaya, pollinators, flowers, and anything you like to bring in more wildlife and create a cohesive environment for people to experience. Plants to grow faster and healthier, and animals, insects to live and thrive organically. A. Plant spacing and raised beds. Space the moringa trees 10-15 feet apart within rows. This spacing allows sufficient room for each tree to grow and develop its canopy. Plant the trees on raised beds to improve drainage and prevent waterlogging. B. Alleyways and access. Design the rows and spacing of the moringa trees to allow for machinery and equipment to pass through the alleys. This facilitates easy access for maintenance, harvesting, and other farm operations. This also allows for wind tunnels to blow through and invigorate the trees, oxygenating the plants. C. Irrigation and fertilization. Implement an appropriate irrigation system to ensure adequate water supply for the trees. Consider drip irrigation or other efficient methods to optimize water usage. Regularly monitor soil fertility and provide necessary organic fertilizers to support healthy growth and maximize yields. By incorporating these design principles into your moringa farm, you can optimize space utilization, increase productivity, and establish efficient farming practices tailored to the specific needs of intensive microgreen production, moringa fedges, and larger-scale orchard cultivation.